3, 2, 1, going live.
Welcome, everyone. Welcome to the second night of the 25th annual FisherPoets gathering. And we're starting off this evening's schedule with a tribute to our good friend and Fisher poet extraordinaire, Jon Campbell. Jon was from Rhode Island, came out to FisherPoets the same year I first came out, 2006, and quickly made his mark there. Jon passed away last month in January, and we are all going to miss him. His music, of course, will live on, music and words. So we have a ton of people who want to try to work in the next hour or so. So we're going to get started right off the bat. We've got Larry Kaplan, who is our first presenter. And Larry, you there?
Yep. Thanks, Dano. In the 25 years I knew Jon, I heard him perform this song only a few times. And I think it was one of his very best gifts to us, because it reminds us of all what it means to live in a free land despite its ups and downs. It's called The Prettiest Girl in New York. And once we were tired, hungry and the poor, and the great huddled masses who stood at her door. And she promised us property, shelter and worth. She's the prettiest girl in all of New York. And like no fragile flower, lovely or plain, see her winter and summer in the hot sun and rain. And yet she's the loveliest one of them all the same. And she took us all fairly, the last or the first, and she fed us and clothed us, she saw to our thirst, though she must have had seen sights that would make her heart burst. Some at our best, and some at our worst, and like no fragile flower, lovely or plain, see her winter and summer in the hot sun and rain. And yet she's the loveliest one of them all the same. I've traveled to the north, to the south and the west. You know, I'd stayed for a while when I thought it was best. I've not seen the like, though I'd look of that tall green-eyed girl with a torch and the book. And like no fragile flower, lovely or plain, see her winter and summer in the hot sun and rain. And yet she's the loveliest one of them all the same. And sometimes I forgot, and I wish she was real, instead of made out of iron, out of copper and steel. Well, I'd have her come ashore, and I'd bid her sit down. It's been an awfully long time to be standing your ground. So from out of the porthole, from the sea and the plain, see her winter and summer in the hot sun and rain. And the prettiest girl in all of New York, she welcomes me home again. Keep on fishing, Jon, and be in peace.
see, I've lost my video somehow, but this is Dano, your host. And that's going to do it, I think. Yeah, there we go. Okay, we're going to move right on. Larry, that was a beautiful rendition of that song. Very, very nicely done. And we're going to move on. Our next performer is Rich King, coming to us from Hawaii. And take it away, Rich.
Wow, that was beautiful, Larry. About as close as I'll ever get to emulating Jon Campbell is wearing a flannel shirt and putting my guitar strap on my right side without putting it around my neck. Anyway, the only time I ever heard Jon sing this boat was at a bar in Portland at a gathering that Moe and Laura had put together. And for some reason, something went gunny sack and Jon didn't have his bouzouki. And so he borrowed this guitar right here and he sang this boat. And I really liked it. And later on, we were sitting there and I told him I'd really like to get the words, and he wrote them down on a napkin for me. I brought them home and I put them in a file and they stayed there until here recently, thanks to Pat Dixon. I drug the song out of In the Tote. And this is my shot. Well, I was downtown getting breakfast just a couple of days ago, standing at the register to get a regular to go. And this old fisherman was talking to an eager beaver kid. Couldn't help but overhear what was being said. Says, yes, I got a boat for sale, but it's more than you can pay. Besides, you'd never get caught up, it'll cost you every day. And yes, I got a boat for sale, but you only gotta tell you, get a whole lot less than when it came to me. Used to be with this boat, you could put something on your table. Now you might as well tie it up as put it out to sea. You know, the time was that the herring would almost jump on board. And the sides of my old shack were nailed up solid tails and swords. There's so damn many lobsters that they'd crawl up on the beach. And the skiff was piled as high as you could reach. I could bore you with how the big eye like the buffalo roam free, and get a load of streamers like pulling apples off a tree. The tides that we've been dredging, leaving shells up to our thighs, and every seagull wore a necklace right with seagull eyes. Scallop eyes. And I could give you this boat, but I really gotta tell you, get a whole lot less than when it came to me. Used to be with this boat, you could put something on your table. Now you might as well tie it up as put it out to sea. Know that time was with this boat, you could fish as you saw fit. When you went and what you got, no one cared a bit. Now it's all got so extensive, and only the fish is cheap. And you got some guy from the government to tell you what to keep. You couldn't use a boat like this, no, you'd never make it pay. You'd be keeping ugly fish you used to throw away. Push back his chair disgusted, I've said all I got to say. So kid, go home and read Spartino, we'll talk another day. And I could give tell you this, boat, but I really gotta tell you, get a whole lot less than when it came to me. Used to be with this boat, you could put something on your table. Now you might as well tie her up as put her out to sea. Might as well tie her up as put her out to sea. Thanks for having me.
Great job, Rich. Always loved that song, and you did a very good version of it there. That was awesome. Thanks for being here. We'll move right on with Moe Bowstern. Moe, are you out there? We got Moe on board?
Yeah, I'm trying to be here. Am I here? Can you hear me?
You're there.
You got me?
I'll clear out.
I can't see. Oh, there I am. Holy moly. Hi, everybody. I've kind of stopped crying since last night. I wanted to, first of all, tell you about my shirt. I don't know if you can see it. Pritchard's Garage. If you've been out to Rhode Island to visit Campbell, you've been to Pritchard's Garage down in Perryville. He must have took you there. Meet everybody. They're big fans of him. Some of them might be watching there, and I know they're really hurting with him being gone. But Geno sent me this shirt so that I could represent. So thanks, Geno. They're really a big support to Campbell. They gave him some money when he was in the hospital there. So first time that I went to Kodiak with Jon Campbell, he got up on the stage. He did something he doesn't do very often. He stood up and squared his shoulders and said that he was an enrolled member of the Penobscot tribe, and that he was really glad to be in Kodiak and see so many tribal people with a lot of money, like with nice trucks and nice houses. And it just made him feel really, he said he hadn't seen that much. It was cool to see him pull that out. I know he didn't talk about that. It was kind of a personal thing for him. And I know this, he could kind of move through everywhere, you know, like all the rooms. He was a fire marshal, and he was kind of renegade, and he drove big rigs for the Teamsters on the movies, working on the movies. And when I drive around, you know, like I drove him around a lot. I drove him back and forth to FisherPoets. We drove around together in Rhode Island. Sometimes I drove. That makes him very uncomfortable if you've ever driven him around. He's got those long bazooki picking fingernails, and he's used to being in control of everything, driving a big rig. And if I got a little too fast or took a turn, you know, because I know those twisty roads kept coming into Astoria, you could just hear his fingernails scrabbling on the dashboard. And that's how it still happens, you know, just driving around. I'll go a little too fast, and then I hear Campbell's fingernails scrabbling on the dashboard there. And so he's with me, he's with us all. And he talks about this when he puts it out, saying he's commemorating the Sequanna-Quonset tribe who came to the rescue of our war effort in the dark days of the World War, fighting the Axis powers by being the inspiration for the following structure. You know, it seems to me your trailer homes, they mostly draw tornadoes, and your little shack down on the beach could float off in a hurricane-o. So keep your palm tree hut down in Sanibel, your igloo up in Nome. I'm looking at a Quonset hut. Now that's a real well-rounded home. Now you might not have an inkling at the onset, but you could make yourself a real good life in a plain old Quonset hut. Now I don't need some fancy spread from Architects Exotica. I just want the kind of place that you could put up in Antarctica. And if it seems sometimes the pace of life has gotten pretty hectic, and you haven't been real comfortable since Dylan went electric, and if the cabin up in the piney woods just gives you thorough heebie-jeebies, you might need the kind of place you can get surplus from the Seabees. You know, they build so flimsy anymore, your house could almost fold up. Yep, you're better off with the kind of place that the weather can't get hold of. And find yourself a real short spouse so the kids don't get too tall. Don't be surprised if all the pictures kind of hang out from the wall. And you might not have an inkling at the onset, but you can't hear diddly when it rains down in a Quonset hut. I know you think this piece of work is mostly nonsense, but you'll be galvanized when next you see the lowly Quonset hut. And I thank you to Jon Campbell, and my heart goes out to Marina and Houlihan and the rest of the Rhode Islanders, as well as all of us at FisherPoets. And my video went away for some reason, but I think you can still see me. So I'm just going to say goodbye.
All right. Thank you, Mo. Beautiful, beautiful rendition of that. That was a great job. And glad you could join us for this tribute to our good friend, Jon Campbell. So next up, we have John Broderick. John, are you ready to go there?
Well, I'm ready enough. Yeah, it's great to be with you guys. And remember, John, you know, I don't think I'd know anything about the East Coast if it weren't for Campbell. And, well, my buddy Jay's taught me a thing or two about Maine. Those 2 trips I had to Rhode Island, and it's amazing you can travel so far and know so little about that country and then feel right at home with Campbell, the way he took us around and just let him into his life. I really appreciated that, like I know we all do. I thought he's one of the last of that kind of guy. Well, they used to haul home up the wind, carrying dories and the oars, and they sailed out from the port of Gloucester, converted to the nets and doors, and they cut the masts a few years back, leaving just these 2 short twigs. But you always know her by her lines, the last of the eastern rigs. Now these boats of steel, it seems to me they don't offer very much. It seems to me that welded steel is always cold to touch. And I never liked those painted ladies with all their fireworks. And who could trust a vessel born amidst the sparks? So I don't care if they'll lend me the money, 'cause a banker never was a captain's friend. And this old boat, she's running smooth as honey, and there's dollars on the southwest wind, and the wind, she bubbles up like coffee as we're setting out to gear. And if there's a God in heaven, she'll float another year. Well, she must have done 10,000 trips without a word of thanks. Now there's nothing but the coat's paint holding in the planks. But this old diesel's got a few more turns till it up and pulls the pins. And we finally just took out the bunks. So at night we come back in. 'Cause insurance, they want too much money. The agent never was the captain's friend. And this old boat, she's running smooth as honey, and there's dollars in the southwest wind. And the net's spread out like a blanket, 100 yards astern. One day she'll go steaming out, never to return. Well, they used to haul home up the wind, carrying dories and the oars. They sailed out from the port of Gloucester,
Converted to the nets and doors, they cut the masts a few years back, leaving just these two short twigs. But you'll always know her by her lines, the last of the eastern rigs. Campbell.
There we go. Beautiful, John. That was awesome. Great job. So next up we have Dano Quinn right here. So I'm going to do well, John did it as a song. I always thought it was a beautiful piece as spoken word. It doesn't have a chorus. It just tells a little story. And it's called The Mary. She was built back in the 40s to help out with the war. She was just a coastal tanker, never ventured far offshore. And if you saw her on the Hudson, you'd ask what she was for, because she looked a lot like what she was, a floating dinosaur. And as she brought a load of benzene from Bayonne to Hackensack, or the bunkers down to Brooklyn and the high test coming back, see the captain up there ringing bells like a trolley on the track, with her scale built up like calluses and a fire in the stack. She would scatter schools of whitefish when the screw began to turn. She'd always blow a smoke ring when the stack began to burn, and you had to shut the engines down before she'd back astern. I guess now all those tricks to handle her, no one else will learn. Because up there in the wheelhouse now is the silence of the bells. No more passage to Poughkeepsie from the Congo to the Kills. And though a master knows his vessel from the radar to the keel, a man's a man for all of that. A ship is merely steel. So now the Coast Guard says her days are done. To the smelter she must go to make guardrails out in Iowa or to plow New Hampshire snow. She'll go where they are wanting steel, her last sea voyage made. And they'll be cutting up the Mary. She's just a million razor blades. But then at dawn, some sunny morning, her last trip shall begin, as she rides the crest above your lip to the trough beneath your chin. And she's at last a shiny cutter, riding on the foam so sleek. And may the Mary still go lightly as she sails across your cheek. I'm going to miss beautiful stories like that seem to spring from John's pen. And I'm also going to miss his laugh on stage, as I know other people will as well. John up there chuckling at his own quips as he spins a 10-minute yarn to introduce a 4-minute song. Rest in peace, John. And moving on, next we have up Shanghaied on the Willamette. Bring a little more music into the powwow here.
Yeah, let's get a little
ready to go.
Yeah, we're ready to go.
Ready to roll. So, hi,
Yeah.
everybody.
Yeah, thanks, Dano. Yeah, so I first, can you see us? Oh, you can see us. I first met Jon Campbell when we were up on stage at FisherPoets gathering in the Wet Dog, and we sang this song that we had learned long ago from friends who learned it from friends, and somehow it came through the folk process. And so we sang that song, and it was a song we've enjoyed singing. And a guy I didn't know came up to the foot of the stage and said, "Hey, do you know who wrote that song?" And I said, "No." He says, "You want to meet the author?" "Sure." He says, It's me. It's me. So that was my meeting Jon Campbell.
Our introduction to John, and we've of course saw him a number of years and visited with him when he came out here to FisherPoets. But when we sang this song enough, and then I realized there were too many East Coast place names, so I took it upon myself to add a verse or two and rearrange them and add some West Coast place names. And it's actually the version that's on his Yep, I Said That is the version that we've recorded. So,
And you got a prop here.
oh yeah, this is John. This is for you wherever you are.
But we'll drink it.
Yeah, we'll drink it later. So here's a bottle of Tanqueray.
Tanqueray Martini.
Yeah. So Tanqueray Martinio.
Please sing it with
We
me.
expect you to sing you loud on the choruses. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Well, we sailed out of Puget Sound with a fleet of stink pots all around. When from up on deck the call came down,
Tanqueray Martini, oh.
And all the captains and the crew must have the drink you can see right through. There's really nothing else we'll do.
Tanqueray Martini, oh.
So haul your sheets back with one hand. Set your drink down if you can.
And we'll never sail out of sight of land. Tanqueray Martini, oh.
It's 9 parts gin to 1 vermouth. The sailor's friend, ain't that the truth? From Frisco Bay to the Bay of Booth.
Tanqueray Martini, oh.
Makes them Newport girls look so fine. Rigged loose up front and snug behind. With a pack and slip by Calvin Klein.
Tanqueray Martini, oh. So haul your sheets back with one hand. Set your drink down if you can. And we'll never sail out of sight of land. Tanqueray Martini, oh.
Ah, sailing life's the life for me. The boat ain't cheap, but the wind is free. And if you can't make way in a dead calm sea,
Tanqueray Martini, oh.
And we don't flinch when the boat does heel. The short straw has to man the wheel, while the rest turn green staring at the keel.
Tanqueray Martini, oh.
So haul your sheets back with one hand.
Set your drink down if you can, and we'll never sail out of sight of land. Tanqueray Martini, oh.
To Astoria we did put in, we being nearly out of gin.
Oh, no.
To continue on would be a sin.
Tanqueray Martini, oh.
But the captain's laid out on the floor, he being elected to get some more. But he broke his leg trying to get on shore.
Tanqueray Martini, oh. So haul your sheets back with one hand. Set your drink down if you can. And we'll never sail out of sight of land. Tanqueray Martini, oh.
As we sailed back to Puget Sound, we struck a shoal and ran aground. But we don't care, pour another round.
Tanqueray Martini, oh.
And when the urge strikes to sail away, I think that we'll just spend the day with the anchor dropped in our mooring bay.
Tanqueray Martini, oh. So haul your sheets back with one hand. Set your drink down if you can. And we'll never sail out of sight of land.
Big finish.
Tanqueray Martini, oh.
Woo! Thanks for the great song, John.
Yeah, thank you, Jon Campbell.
Rest in peace, bud.
Great job, Shanghaied on the Willamette. If you're just joining us, we are in the midst of Campbell's last set here in the 25th edition of the Fisherpoets Gathering. Remembering our good friend, fellow Fisher poet, Jon Campbell. We also lost another friend of the Fisher Poets in the last year. Mick Hasson was our sound man for over a decade down there in Astoria. And even after he moved away, he would come back every year, just like the rest of us, and put together a crew. Especially, he did this for about almost a decade, I think. And at the time, Fisherpoets Gathering was growing exponentially, so it became tougher and tougher every year. And Mick just did a fantastic job, so we want to remember him at this time, as well as some of the other Fisher poets who have crossed the bar over the years. Right now, we're going to move on. Our next performer will be Doug Rhodes, who's on a ferry somewhere between Ketchikan and Prince of Wales Island up in Alaska. And Doug, are you there for us?
I think I'm there. Am I there for you? Okay.
You here, Doug?
You see me there?
We do.
Okay, good. All right. All right. Well, I'm a salmon fisherman up in Alaska, and we all believe that Atlantic farm-raised salmon are bad. And one year, John showed up at Astoria with his take on it. He said he got tired of everybody talking about salmon, and that there were salmon on the East Coast too. And so this was his take on it, the difference between Atlantic and Pacific salmon. You know, I've seen your wild Pacific and your coho and chinook, sockeye dogs and humpies, some in the net and some on the hook. And even school kids know the tale. When to the ocean they have gone, why, it's after a couple of years or so, it's back upstream to spawn. And when these salmon start to feel the urge and head back towards the land, in spring break style, they con. But that reverie is terminal. That fact is widely known. But out here on the Atlantic, you know, we have a salmon of our own. And out east, the story's different. Though some parts are the same, the Atlantic salmon manages without a fancy name. But when it comes to spawning, well, the difference is profound. Our salmon, he just finishes up and turns right back around. So when the wild Pacific salmon is floating belly up, the Atlantic salmon's back at sea and as frisky as a pup. And when that wild Pacific salmon is merely grizzly feces, ours has a choice of many countries in which to propagate his species. So what conclusions we should draw from this? The science is not specific. But if you plan on spawning more than once, would you choose Atlantic or Pacific? And the science isn't positive that these fish can jump Niagara, but it could be that the Atlantic salmon is like a piece of pink Viagra. Leave it to Campbell to come up with an observation like that. Thank you.
All right, great job, Doug Rhodes. Enjoy your ferry ride there over to Prince of Wales. So next up we have John Van Amerongen. John, are you, Van Am, you there somewhere in the ether?
Roger that. I'm out here in the ether. You pick me up?
Loud and clear.
Oh, that's great. Well, Amanda's going to help me out with this one. And the reason I need her help is because we're going to do a little magic here. In 2008, Jon Campbell recorded a CD, and it was titled, I Wish I'd Said That. And it was probably one of the best things that ever happened to me because he was recording songs that were written by other people. And obviously there were songs that he appreciated. And I had 2 songs on that CD, which makes me, I mean, I could get bruises under my suspenders here on my thumbs because I'm so proud that he did that. And one of those songs was The Last Troller's Waltz. And the other one was a song about a greenhorn. And I'm going to let John tell you this story. And there's a great photo by Pat Dixon that I hope we can get up here. And so let's just listen to John instead of listening to Van Am. Bear with us.
Sorry, the magic's a little bit slow, but it's happening. Hold on just 1 second.
The sorceress is waving her wand here, so
When he hopped off the ferry in Ketchikan, he was fresh as a little pup. Waltzed on into the sourdough, and all the boys at the bar looked up. Well, here's that kid from Ballard. Yeah, he'd come a long, long way to get his wish and to kill some fish on the deck of the Corps of May. And you know his cheeks, they were pale and shaven, his long hair blonde and straight. He didn't smoke or chew no snooze at all, he did or fart or read a chart, a real greenhorn you could say. But his back had muscles, guessed he could hustle a job on the Corps of May. Well, are you staring at me? He looked up and said when he put down his knife and fork. Well, I was just drinking a mac and water and wondering if this dork could pull his weight after staying up late when we met at the break of day to lace up the seine in the pounding rain on the dock by the Corps of May. Yeah, well, pardon me, pal, but you look like a gal the way that hair is a-waving. And that shirt's pretty fancy, but wearing is chancy the way my cook's been behaving. See, he ain't got laid in 53 days since his wife up and went away. So you better be hoping you don't drop the soap in the shower on the Corps of May. Now I took him on down to the Tongass, and I fixed him up real good. Got him a pair of Frisco jeans and a set of oilskins with a hood to keep the jellyfish off his neck, piling web and corks all day when the big ones dropped from the power block on the deck of the Corps of May. And we gave him the bunk in the engine room with his head right next to the Jimmy, and when he came to the breakfast table, all those coffee cups would shimmy till his third piece of bacon when he finally quit shaking and the trembling went away. But he never did whine, he was doing just fine, that kid on the Corps of May. You see, we ain't really mean, it's just that we've seen a lot of them come and go. And if you ain't got the grit, well, you ain't worth a shit to yourself for your boat in a blow. 'Cause even the best are put to the test when you can't see the bow through the spray. So we did what we did for ourselves and the kid that trip on the Corps of May. And when we got back to town, he bought us around and quickly paid for another. Lifted his glass and said, "You're an ass, but I'm starting to feel like your brother. You know, it's a real no-brainer, this being a saner, but I think I'll stay on anyway. Yep, you guys are moronic. Mine's gin and tonic, and here's to the Corps of May."
Awesome.
That was great. Thank you, John. I owe you a gin and tonic upstairs. Hope we'll get a chance to share it. Night, everybody.
Oh, I don't know about the rest of you, but I got chicken skin actually hearing the voice of the man himself. That was really special, and loved hearing that. Been a while since I've heard that song. Great job writing it, John, and great job performing it, Jon Campbell. So we'll move on next to Jay Speakman. Up next, Jay, are you out there?
I'm here. Right here. Here I am.
You're up.
All right. So I picked one of John's. I won't go into all the great times we had, but I, along with John Broderick, went back east and got shuttled around and saw a little bit of Jon Campbell's world. It was really fun. But anyway, when it was time to pick a song to remember him by, I was attracted to something he wrote that was an original by Wallace McCrae, a cowboy poet. He rewrote it in his own words. And so I thought, well, that would be appropriate. It's called Reincarnation. And so I took this CD out of the case, stuck it in a CD player, and to my surprise, I was able to put my laptop next to it on the speaker, and there's a little icon there for a microphone, and I hit record and I started playing the song, And I'll be darned if John didn't sing these words right onto the page. So I never had to type it. And that's why I believe in reincarnation. It kind of goes like this. Now, what does reincarnation mean? A sailor asked his friend, and his mate replied, it happens when your life has reached its end. Well, they comb your hair and they wash your neck and clean your fingernails, and they wrap you up in old sailcloth, away from life's travails. Now the shroud in you goes o'er the side to the realm of Davy Jones. Reincarnation starts in when you're turning into bones. The crabs and fishes rend the shroud, and you who are inside, and then you're just commencing on your transformation ride. And in a while the seaweeds grow upon your rendered mound, and there upon your vestiges a sea anemone is found. And say some whale should happen by and graze upon this flower that once was you, but now's become your aquatic bower. Now this little snack the whales ate, up with his other feed, makes blubber, bone, and muscle essential to the breed. But some is left that he can't use, and so it passes through, and it lays there on the bottom, this thing that once was you. And say by chance I should swim by some 50 fathoms down, and I ponders and I wonders at this object I have found. Well, I would think of reincarnation, and of life and death and such, and I'd come away concluding, Cap, you ain't changed all that much. Thanks. Thanks to John for writing it.
And thanks to you, Jay, for bringing it up for us. That was beautiful. Love the harmonica in there. That was just great. So we're gonna move on. Next we have Geno Leech. I believe you're there with John Broderick. So Geno's got. Well, I'll let him explain it. Geno, you want to take?
Yeah, Dano. Anyway, last week, my wife and I was cleaning upstairs, and amongst some old books and poems and stuff, she came out with a couple pieces of paper titled Jon Campbell. But there's no signature on it. Who wrote it? So we put the word out, but we still don't know. So, try to get back with somebody so you take the credit for it, because I didn't write it, but I'll tell you what. I'm figuring it's kind of some semi-scholar because there's words in here I don't know. But anyway, it's called Jon Campbell. If you've ever sailed out on the coast of New England and over the waves thought you heard someone singing, well, you might be surprised. Tip your ear and take a gamble. As likely as not, it's a song by Jon Campbell. Yeah, there's really no other tunesmith will do. A poet laureate for the seafaring crew, with a timeless melody rendered anew, and the turn of a phrase rendered slightly askew. In southern Rhode Island he makes his home, plies his trade, be it melting down spoons or a soft serenade. And his way with a rhyme, being subtle and wry, can oft bring a tear to the hardest man's eye. He can whip up some Irish and play their best jams, but he'd rather write songs about lobsters and clams, about whalers and mermaids and ships made of tin, hard captains and soft yachties stinking of gin. Now the original poet, philosopher, wit, he could write a good song about taking a shit. And what other poet imagine a reel leaves you feeling empathy for an old piece of steel. Now, some call him crazy, some call him kooky, playing 12-bar blues on an 8-string bouzouki. But that's just his style. He likes keeping you guessing. Hell, half the time, he's just giving a history lesson. He'll tell you a story that'll make your heart ache, and he'll pull on those strings till you think that they'll break. And just when you feel like a fish on a gaff, he turns it around and making you laugh. And you're wondering how he can keep in control all those visions of death in a watery hole, and mysterious legends born up from foam. Well, he's not telling stories. He's bearing his soul. And that's why his songs all have lives of their own, and his poems on other men's voices find home. 'Cause it's hard to resist something cleverly written, and once learned, it's hard not to be overall smitten. So now, they all sing his songs, never bought, never earned them. Fully half of them don't even know where they learned them. Handed down, carried on, traded, bartered and gifted, smiles exchanged, tears held back, overall, spirits lifted. And on some schooner's deck with an old ukulele, there's some scallywag singing a new version daily. That's okay with John, though, he says. Finders keepers. What the hell? I just pull them out of the ethers. And if they choose to roam the ends of the earth, well, I'm happy to just play a part of their birth. So if that attitude throws a wrench in your grace, just consider it John's form of catch and release. Now you're probably wondering why this oration, this ubiquitous splurge of questionable duration. At the end of the day, it is just all a nod to the man and his legend at all. Well, every good sailor's been around the horn once or twice, and I reckon you're not keen on taking advice, but where air on land or these seas you should ramble, just be sure you're singing some songs by Jon Campbell. Thank you.
Whoa, I don't know where that came from, but that was just awesome. Sure you didn't write that, Geno? Whoever did, better come forward just to tell us how you came up with a rhyme for ukulele. That was so awesome. And John would have got a big kick out of that. Good stuff, Geno. Thanks for joining us here in our tribute to our Fisher poet friend, Jon Campbell. Next up, we have Alec McMurrin. And Alec's got another tune for us. Alec, you can take it over.
Hello. You know, I didn't know Jon for all that long a time, but I've been playing his, met him down at the FisherPoets years ago, and I sure appreciated what he was doing. And I've taken to playing his music on my radio show up here in Petersburg occasionally. And this is a song that I play every chance I get. Courageous man that he is there, taking up the bouzouki like that. Geno mentioned that. I was on the docks the other night when everything was still. I saw them Point Judith girls. They was dressed up fit to kill. They wore Helly Hansen camisoles and oilskin lingerie, 'cause Frederick of Galilee had dressed them up that day. Well, I loves a girl in waders and an old bikini top. But lately I've been wondering just where this all will stop. All them girls down at the co-op, they're just putting on the dog. Since old Frederick of Galilee sent out his catalog. And he sells a tiny teddy she can wear out on a date. And if things don't work out so good, she can wear it string and bait. He's got appropriate apparel, whether calm or whether rough. And if it's not naughty or it's nautical, oh, Freddie's got the stuff. As for fishnet stockings, they make sense, I confess, as long as they've been shook out and they don't leave too much mess. And if your sweetie's worried how the seams run straight behind, well, here's your chance to show her that you're pretty good with twine. Give her the spandex down-filled bodysuit where the fasteners won't rust. It's sure to keep her warm at night as the industry goes bust. Give her the silky gillnet wrap around with the floats to match her eyes. That goes good for fur-trimmed hit boots with the flares around the thighs. And there's a full uplift flotation vest in a lazy pastel hue and a peekaboo survival suit that will always see her through. So give her the polypropylene garter belt or the PVC chemise, 'cause old Frederick of Hollywood of Galilee put the sleeves back on the 7 seas. And I've got a secret for Victoria. She's really missed the boat, 'cause Frederick of Galilee is keeping them afloat. So when it comes to underwater, underwire, underwear, just send a check to Frederick and get yourself a pair. Thank you so much, John.
All right, great job, Alec. That's another favorite of mine. Sung that song many times myself up here at sea shanty sessions in the Pacific Northwest. Next up, we have Elma. Elma Burnham, are you out there?
I'm here. Thanks, Dano. I have a song from Catch and Release, and I did not quite get it together to do it as a song, but I'm really happy to read it for y'all this evening. This is Ulysses the Fisherman. It was late last September. I was pulling some pots out by the Southeast Light, and I was thinking about quitting, going home early, when I beheld me a wondrous sight. It was a raven-haired beauty way out from shore, just paddling out through the swell. You know, I might have gone swimming with some bow-legged women, but none of them did it as well. She was moving along at 8 or 10 knots, and her bow wave and wake, they were fine. And I banged up my elbow and bloodied my nose as I scrambled to throw her a line. And she backed it right down and came circling around and threw a hand up on the rail. You know, the part in the sun was all at number 1, but under the water was tail. Well, I was sorry, I think, I ever once had a drink as I watched her there bobbing around. Then up from the chop popped 2 or 3 more, all singing a melodious sound. And they circled the boat like synchronized swimmers, and they called in a manner most sweet. Well, I decided right then that all things considered, I liked my women with feet. And I gotta admit that on days such as this, life seems an elaborate joke. Well, I told them I'd join them, but I'd be no fun because I couldn't swim one single stroke. And then I was thinking, as I motored back home, how I'd get insulted for days, because who could I tell such an outlandish story if I didn't come home with fillets? They'd say you couldn't be too much of a fisherman if you let that get away. They'd say you couldn't be too much of a fisherman if you let that get away. Thanks. It's an honor to share this celebration with y'all.
Super.
It was great.
Thank you, Elma. That was just so good. Ulysses the lobsterman out of Block Island, I think he was. If you're wondering why we're blasting through this so fast, we're not really telling Campbell stories too much here. We just got so many people in line that want to contribute a little something that we're just trying to keep things moving along so we can finish up before we have to start the next set. So we're going to move right on, and next we have songwriter Mary Garvey from down there on the Columbia. Mary, you there?
I am. Can you hear me? Oh, I swore I wouldn't say that. Okay, I'm going to do the Providence Waltz, and the words are posted way up high at the beginning of the chat. Providence Waltz. You can see us all stamping at the mud hole downtown. We're in family court, we're all shuffling around. As you take a step forward, you take a few back. You do the Providence Waltz like a migraine attack. You kinda know me, and I kinda know you. We're mostly hanging round, don't have a whole lot to do. But I'm here and you're here for all of our faults. I guess we might as well do the Providence Waltz. Not for nothing he was doing the Providence Waltz. You can Providence Waltz when you're out there on bail, having lunch with the mayor or chasing your tail. You can waltz on the platform or up on the hill. I say we're all leaving, but we're waltzing here still. I've seen you before, and you've probably seen me. We might have waltzed once before where the pen used to be, and you might be my cousin or live with my friend. But if we waltzed once before, well, we'll do it again. I lost my heart when I was doing the Providence Waltz. You can waltz with that bug on Route 95. Make your way to the end of the registry line. Just get 3 all the way with celery salt. And you can eat while you're dancing to the Providence Waltz. You kinda know me, and I kinda know you. We're underemployed, don't have a whole lot to do. But I'm here and you're here for all of our faults. I guess we might as well do the Providence Waltz. And that's 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, Providence Waltz. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, Providence Waltz. Narragansett as you dance it. Wash them gaggers down to the Providence Waltz. Oh, thank you.
Great job, Mary Garvey. Thank you for joining us, and now for giving us the Providence Waltz. So we're getting close to the end of our tribute here to Jon Campbell. We've got 2 special guests from the East Coast. Our first is Joe Houlihan, who was John's running mate for a lot of years back there on the East Coast. It's where I first heard of Jon Campbell's music, when he was singing with Joe, a band called Houlihan and Campbell. So we're going to turn it over.
Whoops.
I think we're good. You good?
Hello, everybody.
Yeah.
You can all hear us. Okay, yeah, good on you from the East Coast. Marina Campbell and I here, Campbell and Houlihan, doing a little gig in honor of John. A quick little story. St. Patrick's Day, 1996. I wrote a rock and roll song called Rockin' the Boat. In the summertime, I'm sorry. And we had all the tracks done, the guitar, drums, bass. It was a rock and roll song. John, mandolin, he did the mandolin track on it. He had to put an Irish pipe track on the back end of the song. Comes in from playing a gig for the mayor of Newport on St. Patrick's Day. It's freezing cold outside. Campbell comes in, takes the pipes out. He can't get them in tune because the reeds are compressed. So he's messing around with the pipes, the engineer and I are watching this. We set the EQ, we get everything going, and we say, okay, Campbell, take a run at this, play the hell out of it. We're going to jack the volume up because we can always put some affect on the end of the song. It's an outro. So the engineer runs the tape. Campbell's with his Irish pipe sitting there, and he's playing these things, almost popping off. He is popping off the stool, playing the uilleann pipes like a Stratocaster, bending the notes, pumping the bellows, pressing the bag, contorted. And I'm thinking, there's no way in hell he's going to get this. We're going to be here all night. The engineer's looking at me and he says, should I keep recording? I said, keep going, keep going. At the end of it, we played it back. But Campbell looked at it. When he finished, he looked at me and he shrugged like, well, what? Should we do it again? I said, Campbell, come in here. We listened to it. It was a 1 in a million shot. He nailed the take of this very complex pipe melody with cold bagpipes. He pulled it off. It was astounding. Jon was an extraordinary writer, obviously, but his musicianship cannot be understated. It was a moment that's baked in my memory. It'll never go away. I had to share that. Glad to be here.
Well, I don't know if we still have time left. I'm hoping that we do, but I'm thrilled to be here. This is now my second time at the gathering, and I didn't ever think I'd participate, and especially under these circumstances, but I'm really grateful to be here and thankful to have you all in this community. So I just wanted to share a song from my dad. I've got his guitar here, so I've got a little piece of him. And this song to me has always, I've always felt really connected to the water as a way to just kind of ground myself and remember people and places. And I think I'll let him do the talking, with his profound wisdom. So anyway, this is Restless Waters, and I'll try not to spin too long of a yarn. So where the stone walls run to the face of the cliff, so many times my love and I have wandered here like this, where the waters flow past the mouth of the bay, brush the shores of distant lands, half a world away. Just last week we waited, waters of the Nile, dropped a line into the brine of a South Pacific isle. Waters underneath our bows, at Jonah and the whale, the right-hand side of Moses' Sea, left here in this vale. And the waters here within my hand once washed a mermaid's hair. And Francis Drake's armada sank on that ripple over there. And these 3 drops upon the oar, it floats Ulysses home. It's round and round and round the world, the restless waters roam. So where the stone walls run to the face of the cliff, so many times my love and I have wandered here like this, and where the waters flow past the mouth of the bay, brush the shores of distant lands, half a world away. This small drop of water turned the first rocks into sand. This one here ran off the back times we might be rowing out upon the China Sea, or dropping pebbles in the blue from the beach at Normandy. We soaked through by a breaking wave that came from Botany Bay. It's round and round and round the world, the water flows each day. So where the stone balls run to the face of the cliff, so many times my love and I have wandered here like this. And where the waters flow past the mouth of the bay, brush the shores of distant lands, half a world away. It's many a man who's left his home to sail upon the seas, to seek his fortune on the water, so many miles from these. The further that you sail away, the quicker you float home. It's round and round and round the world, the restless waters roam. So where the stone walls run to the face of the cliff, so many times my love and I have wandered here like this. And where the waters flow past the mouth of the bay, brush the shores of distant lands, half a world away. Sending love to you all. Thank you all for being here.
Bravo, Zulu, Marina Campbell. Johnny.
Dano, I think we got you on mute.
Sorry about that. That's probably user error there. Just wanted to say that was a fantastic way to finish off our tribute to Jon Campbell. If you didn't know, that was Marina Campbell, Jon's daughter, who finished us out there, took us out with his beautiful song called Restless Waters. Man, I was tearing up during that one, Marina. That was such a fantastic job, and your dad would have been mighty proud to hear you do that for us here this evening. So that's about it for our tribute to Jon and Campbell's last set. It was a fantastic job to everyone who joined in, and love that you were here to join us. We're going to quit here and come on back in an hour at 6 o'clock. We'll start the first session of tonight's lineup for FisherPoets Gathering 2022. Hope to see you all there.
Adios.